to be a mom and do all that stuff on my own. And I had to leave college because I didn't have a way to and from school because my mom took me to school. And when I moved out, I didn't have that luxury, so I had to leave. And like it was my choice to get away from a drug selling brother who I do love, but at this point in time, I don't like him. I mean, what would you do if you had a family member that got caught selling drugs and you lived in the same apartment? It's not a house that we lived in. It was a house, but it was a separate basement apartment, and he lived in the other room. He was like my roommate basically, and he got caught selling drugs, and I was like, I'm getting the heck out of this house. Yeah, but I made the choice to get away from him. It was, and not only that, but I left so quick, I didn't even go get my stuff. I left all my stuff, except for my TV and a couple things that, I didn't want to leave behind. So, I went back to go get my stuff. I have pictures of my kids that are still there, like, irreplaceable. Like, you can't get, like, baby pictures of your kids back, and I left, and to this day, like, it sucks. I went to go get my stuff last month, and my brother had my son sitting in his room because it was a weekend, because once in a while my son will go and hang out with my parents, and for some reason they thought it was okay for my son to be downstairs with my brother Matt, and I was like, no. I went into my old bedroom that had my bed on there, and there was empty boxes of needles. Like, you know what diabetic needles are? I don't know what they're called, but there was empty ones of those everywhere, and I knew something was going on. I was like, why the hell are all these empty needles everywhere? Empty boxes. And I went into my room. Yeah, it was a really bad sign. So I went into my room, and there was a box with like some liquid black stuff, like in one of those like containers that you would have sauce in if you go to a restaurant. And I looked in it, and I was like, what is this shit? And I took a picture of it. And as I was taking a picture, my brother comes by, and I'm standing there like, oh, I'm just trying to find my stuff, because I was trying to come up with a reason for why I was in there, and I was trying to pretend like I wasn't taking a picture, like I was just checking my text message on my phone. And then right then and there, I went upstairs to my mom and my dad, and I told my dad, I was like, Dad, Matt's been doing heroin. There's heroin needles everywhere, and there's stuff on the bed, and I don't know anything about drugs at that point. I didn't know what it was I was looking at, and I was stupid, and I opened the box and like touched it, and my boyfriend, he's like, Ashley, you shouldn't have touched that shit. He's like freaking out at me, telling me I shouldn't have touched it, and I'm like, I didn't know what it was. So he actually went downstairs, was helping me get my stuff. My brother flipped out. My dad was with me. This stuff that was on the bed was gone after my dad came downstairs. It took less than 5 minutes. And the scary part is I actually got to the point where I was like, okay, well, there's obviously a problem, and as my boyfriend and I were trying to carry out my stuff, my brother got in the middle and started fighting, saying that the stuff I was taking out wasn't mine, and he took the stuff and threw it across the room, and I told my brother I'm calling the cops. So as I'm on the phone with the cops, my brother takes off on his bike, and like literally not even 5 minutes of being on the phone with the cops are at my house. I'm outside. My stepdaughter's crying because she does not like dealing with the cops. She's 12 years old, and she's already been through a lot of traumatic things. Seriously, so I'm outside, and the cops are asking me where my brother is, and I'm like, I don't know, he took off on his bike. And my dad's yelling at me, telling me I'm not his daughter, and screaming at me. And I looked at my dad. I was like, you know what, Dad? Be the adult. Don't sit here and make me be the damn adult. I'm like, at that time I was 27. I turned 28 April 21st, and I'm standing there, and I'm telling my dad to be the adult, and he's standing there still in shock, and the cops are like, oh, we can't do anything because Matt's not here, but we can go downstairs with you and go get your stuff. And my dad's like looking at me like, no, you can't let anybody go down there because there's heroin needles everywhere. And I was like, no, it's fine, but I want my son to get in the car. And my dad's sitting there, he's like, why does Jacob have to leave? And I'm looking at my dad like, he has to leave, Dad. He's not staying here. And then the cops are like, do you have a custody agreement? And I'm looking at the cops like, he's my son. I have to have a custody agreement? I'm serious. A custody agreement for my kids. So I literally at that point in time, like, I couldn't fight with my dad. He's like, he won't be around. He's not going to be around, Matt, I promise. And I'm sitting there just thinking, yeah, right. Like, you're telling me that my son's not going to be around Matt, and I love my brother, but he has a problem, and I don't want my kids around him. So I got to that stage in my life where I told my parents it was either Matt or my kids, and my kids haven't been allowed to be around my brother Matt. And then I found out that my brother went to jail on Friday, and my dad told me that he came home on, I think, Saturday, and then he checked back into jail on Sunday night, like one of those rehab jails, and he admitted to my dad he had a heroin problem. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, Dad, I've been telling you he's been having a problem ever since I was in college in October. He would come home, and while I was in the middle of class, this tells you like serious student that I was when I was in college, he would come in there while I was in the middle trying to study for finals, and he would be throwing like $1,000 bill wads on my bed. He's like, look what I do. I swear to God. And because he kept telling him that he worked for construction. And every single time my mom would take me to my classes, I'd be like, where is paychecks at, Mom and Dad? And they wouldn't ever, they're like, oh, it's okay, that he's paying the bills right now, so it's okay. And then, I think it was like my second month into college, it was November, it was right before he got busted, his boss bought him a car. Like it was like an old car, but it was like a nice car. And I'm like, hello, red flag, Mom and Dad. Whose boss buys him a car? And my parents still didn't want to believe that he wasn't doing drugs or selling them. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, especially with my experiences, because it's like a life changing. Like I had the mindset where I was like, I'm not dealing with this, I'm leaving. And it was a really hard decision for me. I've been with my boyfriend for 7 years now, almost 8, and we went through struggles where he lived with me in that house, and he moved out to go live with his mom, and his mom and dad actually bought a house and gave us their house. And once this all started, he was like, you need to come and live with me. And even when his parents were not, they weren't moved out into the new house yet, I was here because they knew something was going on. And I don't know if Bill told them, but I just was like, man, I can't be at my house. I need to finish this last semester at least so that I can get my grades up, and then I'm going to try to go to my second semester. But I had this gut feeling that I was going to have to focus on my kids and my life at that time, because school at that time just wasn't something that I could do because of the fact that what was going on in my life was so hectic. I couldn't focus on it. But when I was going to school and my brother was coming in and they're doing it, I was like, leave me the hell alone and get out of my room. I just shoved my face in the book and be like, I'm learning about my urology system, I was that focused where I just didn't care about what was going on with my brother at that time. The only thing I focused on was me and my kids. So, yeah. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah.